Hello and welcome to NBJ Live here on LinkedIn. Not so live today. Today's NBJ Live mid-year supplement industry update, and we're really happy to be here sharing it with you. Unfortunately, LinkedIn seems to be having some system-wide challenges. So as I speak here, we're actually not live. We're recording this, and our team will get it posted on demand. Well, by the time you hear me saying this, it will already be done. So let's just get right into it. We're going to talk about the supplement industry. Our biggest report of the year, the NBJ Supplement Business Report, came out last month, and it's a big it's a big deal, and it tells you everything about what's going on in the industry, particularly from a category and channel perspective. So let's kick it off as we usually do with market research analyst Erika showing us some of the numbers. Then we're going to bring in Rick Polito, editor-in-chief of NBJ, to have a conversation. And who am I? I'm Bill Giebler, and it's great to be here with you. So, Erika, give us a little sneak peek.
All right, thanks, Bill. So yes, this is our mid-year supplement update. So this is the time of year where we're finalizing our 2023 numbers, and then we have estimates out towards 2027. So with that, we'll start off with some visuals. So as I always say, we like to start these off with giving an overview of the total industry, and then I'll get into some category and channel specifics after this slide. But for those of you who are new here and haven't seen our slides or charts before, just want to do a little housekeeping on how to read this chart. So this is total supplement industry sales, and on the left of those green bars are our historic sales, and then on the right are those forecasted or projected numbers in gray, and then that yellow line is going to be our growth line. So on the left axis, if you're looking at it, we have sales in millions. So at the top there, that would be 80 billion. And then on the right, we have growth. So for 2023, we actually saw supplement sales regain a little bit of strength after the little bit of a rougher year we saw in 2022. So just as a reminder, in 2022, we saw growth lower to about 1.9%. But in 2023, we're estimating that it's about 4.4%. So it made a good rebound to about a $64.28 billion industry in 2023. And a little bit of background, we typically get a lot of questions on, is inflation included in this? Is it, just price sales? And I like to just say, we do take into consideration inflation and unit sales, and we factor that into our growth estimates. So for a little bit of background, in 2023, natural and specialty and mass market were about flat growth for unit volume, but DTC is actually where we saw most of that unit increase. But in 2024, it's looking a little more optimistic than 2023, with more unit increases seen throughout the main channels. So while inflation is a piece of this 4.4%, it's not only inflation. So with that, this is just a very general pie chart here. So this is total industry sales broken out by market share for the top 6 categories that we track. So vitamins is the biggest piece of this pie at almost 29%, followed by specialty supplement ingredients. So this would be your probiotics, your omega-3s, DHEA, etc. And then next is followed by herbs and botanicals, at about 19.5% market share. And then sports nutrition, meal replacements, and minerals. So also just want to quickly define sports nutrition. This would be your protein powders, your protein beverages, your functional sports beverages, and then, your pre-workouts, protein powders, etc. Meal replacements are, again, those meal replacement powders. And then in terms of what's growing the most in 2023, we're actually seeing sports nutrition again being that top growing category, followed by specialty. But we will get into more of that discussion with Rick and Bill. So this is same kind of thing, but just by channel, right? So it's tracking the top 6 channels. So you see that natural and specialty and mass market, those percentages are pretty close together. So in 2023, we see natural and specialty still in that top piece of the pie, And then we're going to anticipate a little bit of sales channel dynamics to shift in 2024. But we'll also get into that a little bit today as well, and talk about what's driving that and what's causing that to happen. But we're starting to see natural and specialty lose a little bit of that market share to other growing channels. And I like to end these with some consumer survey data points. So we do a lot of surveying through Suzy and their online platform. So we just asked, we did a screener to quote supplement users within the space, and we asked them which of the following best describes why you take dietary supplements. So it's very condition based. And as we see here, this was launched in April, and we see immunity was up pretty high. So just below overall general health, which typically rises to the top as that number one reason, and then followed by energy, reducing fatigue, and then gut health, hair, skin, and nails, and then bone and joint health. So that's pretty interesting there. And I think the immunity piece is just because it was in April, and, still a lot of parts of the country are experiencing, winter cold. So that explains that. But it's interesting to do this survey throughout the year to see the seasonality and to see how it changes. And that's pretty interesting to see. Also, energy normally goes up to the top. And then I'll end here with the last consumer piece, just showing, which formats that respondents are currently taking their dietary supplement products in. So tablet and capsule are going to be those top two formats. And then powder is third, which is interesting because in recent surveys that we've done last year, so in 2023, normally we saw gummy actually in front of powder, but now we're starting to see that shift of powder is actually going to be in front of gummy. Granted, it's only a 4 percentage point difference, not that much in the grand scheme of things, but I do think that speaks to a bigger trend in the supplement industry, that there's a lot of growth within the powder format. Again, I think we'll talk a little bit more about that in the next couple minutes, but that is kind of a big overview. There's lots more to talk about. I just wanted to give us a little bit of a sneak peek into some of the data points that are in the report. This is the beautiful cover that we have for that. And yeah, Bill, I will go ahead and send it back over to you to get it started.
Sounds good. Well, you got it started pretty well there. That looks it's always rich stuff, and that's just a tip of the iceberg for the data that's in this report. So that I want to come back to delivery formats because that's such an important piece here of what we're tracking in the industry and the big shifts and gummies and powders, like you said, and it's also a relatively new piece of this report. We've done a delivery format report in the last couple of years. We brought expanded delivery format reporting into this report this year. So it's sort of a bonus for the supplement business report. But before we talk about that, let's hear from Rick. Rick, as you see those numbers, as you wrote this report, what's on your mind?
I think it's that sales channel story. Sales channel is always where, not always, but where a lot of the movement comes, it really has the biggest impact for the industry. And we've been talking about this parity coming across, mass market, natural specialty, and direct to consumer. And it's over these next 12, 15 months, I think, where we're really going to be seeing that happen. And what the effects are is, we don't know to some extent, but it's a completely different world than it was when natural and specialty was the launch pad for all these trends that built the industry. I mean, natural and specialty was the launch pad for getting Deshay passed. And now it's going to shrink down to fall behind direct to consumer, but behind e-commerce and behind mass market at some point. And, what does that mean? Does it matter to anybody who's outside this industry? Does it matter to the regular consumer that that the first rung is not natural and specialty anymore? Yeah. So I think that remains to be seen at some point, but I'm guessing it doesn't matter that much. People buy what they buy.
It's interesting because I've been in the industry so long. I always feel like, oh, okay, let's have a moment of silence around natural and specialty losing that top position. And by 2026, it will be in the third place. So for 2023, it's still number one, but barely. And then this year it drops to 2, and by 2026, it's the third largest channel, and growing slowly, while the other two main channels, mass and e-commerce, are growing so quickly. But it's a good question. Do people care? Does it matter?
And does it matter to where we launch new trends? It used to be that that's where it happened. And there's a special place where you went and you talked to someone. But now the way e-commerce works, trends can start there just as easily, especially with influencer, crowd that's out there, and there's a direct link. You read about it and you buy it right there. You don't have to go to a store. So I don't know if the launching of new trends and products is going to be different, but maybe faster. We don't know. I'm working on a story right now with TikTok herbalists. And these are people, and there's lots of them, who used to maybe have a table at the farmer's market, but now they have a Shopify account, or they're sold straight through TikTok. And so there's all this, like I said, you might have learned about it from talking to someone at the farmer's market, but now you're going to learn about it from a 60-second TikTok video, and then you're going to click to their store and buy it. So it's a different world, but product discovery might be faster than ever.
Well, and like you said, innovation, I think that's really interesting. It's sort of some of the good news, bad news about the low barriers to entry, especially in e-commerce. The low barriers to entry that this industry has, where we can really just launch a product tomorrow and start selling it on an Amazon store. So there's more and more brands that have one SKU, and more innovation, but also a lot of copycat stuff happening there. But it's a big shift from all that innovation happening in natural and specialty. Something else, Rick, I want to, we've seen, we could call it the COVID coaster, the huge growth in 2020. And then it's still solid growth in 2021. And then in 2022, we saw the lowest growth as long as NBJ's been recording it. Now we're back up. And what do you see there? How do you see all of that continuing to play out?
Well, I've been thinking about it as in the respect that this is the last year where we projected past COVID. So you go back to 2019 when no one had heard of Wuhan, China, except people who lived in Wuhan, China. And we projected out to 2024. So we thought we knew where the market was going, and then everything happened. So now what we're looking at is past that, to where we're really into, it's kind of baked in these numbers from here on out. We're looking at that bump and figuring that into everything. We've been doing that the whole time, but we don't have that pre-pandemic window into things. So what stood out to me in a few places, immunity dropped off, but immunity is still bigger than we thought it was going to be. Places like that over and over again. So it's what was the new normal back in 2019 or 2020 rather. We were all talking about the new normal. People are going to know more about supplements, to care more about their health, and it was to expand this big thing. And then 2022 came, I guess that wasn't going to happen. But really, when you look at the numbers, it is bigger than we expected to be. And some of those people stuck around to the point where immunity, which you think everybody stocked up on during 2020, would be low forever because you're working through that surplus in your medicine cabinet, that overstock. And instead, it's bottomed out and it's starting to grow. So these people have stuck around and they're coming back. So we get a new normal. Maybe it's not the dramatic new normal that, transforms the industry, but there's there, the people who came into the industry and stuck around, and that's good news.
Yeah. And we've been reporting on that delta, like you said. We have been able to see, here's what we thought 2024 would look like, and here's what we now think it's going to look like. For those of you who see us report regularly, you either love that or you're tired of it. Well, if you're tired of it, good news. We can't do it anymore after this year. And but that delta's shifted. It's sometimes we've said it was 3 billion, and sometimes about $1.5 billion. And I think right now we're reporting it at a $3 billion lift from COVID, right? Erika, I see you nodding. Yeah. So Erika, let's talk about those delivery formats. It's such an interesting piece of the industry. You showed us survey response, but what do we know from the market sizing?
Yeah, good question. And I like talking about, the difference of the consumer survey data points and then our data points. And I think they're both really great and they complement each other really well. But you always have that thought of, consumers always say one thing and do something different. So I think it's good that we have these consumer data points that can kind of point to some trends and, kind of tell us what's going on and how things are shifting. But from a market sizing perspective, we're actually still estimating that gummies have the biggest piece of market share pie. So it's around 24%. So again, market share in terms of amount of sales. But in terms of what's growing the most, I mean, don't get me wrong, gummies is still growing very healthily, and it's doing better than I think some people might have expected it, right? Everyone's like, oh, gummies, like there's so many of them, it's bound to crash or do whatever you might think in terms of a negative perspective. But gummies are still, they're still sticking around, and they're still one of the top growing formats. You still have, like Rick saying, a lot of people that are entering this market looking for new formats to try, looking for new supplements to try, and just trying out different, unique, fun formats that aren't a boring capsule or tablet, which leads me to the next top growing format, which is powders. I think we're starting to re-enter. It happened a little bit in 2021 with everyone returning back to the gym after COVID, but I think we're seeing it start to have another wave of this convenience wave of just like, let me get all the supplements, vitamins, minerals, protein, everything I can into one format, right? And powders are one of the more easier ways to do that. Let me put it all into my smoothie or all into my protein shake, and I get it all in one. So I think powders is a really is a high growing area, and I think there's a lot of room for innovation there, and you have the interest for those different, unique, fun formats. And it can also tie into a lot of different conditions, right? It can be a general health, it could be beauty from within with collagen, it could be, an herbal powder, or, those sleepy girl mocktails that everyone's been talking about. That's a powder, the magnesium. So it's like a whole routine for people too. So it's interesting.
Well, they're novel, but they're also food-like. So it's really interesting.
Right.
We had an expert on stage at NBJ Summit last year, merchant from Whole Foods, a merchandiser from Whole Foods, talking about. She was really excited about gummies, which I was kind of surprised about. I kind of, I kind of expect an eye roll about gummies. It's like, oh God, gummies are taking over, because they are taking over. When you think about it, you said 24-something%. It's basically a quarter of the market right now is gummies. But what she said was interesting, is that I love it because it's food. It brings dietary supplements into sort of a food experience. We're eating them. And I think the same can be said for powders. With the powder, we're drinking them, right? So whether we're dissolving them into water or putting them into our smoothies, like you said. Really interesting to see, kind of like we were saying that natural and specialty was the sort of the OG channel. Pills were it was all about pills for most of the history of the industry.
Do I get to say now that I love pills and I don't want to eat gummies for 5 minutes? I'm taking 3 things, I think. And we should say, when we talk about biggest share, I mean, we have tablets and capsules that are their own shares. So when you put all the pill formats together, including the pill packets, it's at least still bigger than gummies. So I'm happy to see.
It's close to 40%, I think. I recently added all those up, and it's still 40% of the market is pills. So great.
Well, one thing here's one thing that interesting that I thought about when I was looking back at the formats today, was we were talking about pill packets, was where personalized nutrition is going to happen, and coming from companies like Care Of. You just heard Bayer is shutting down Care Of. So the personalized might not be there to grow the pill packet idea the way we thought it was going to. If Bayer can't make a go of it, it's hard to see who's going to grow that real big.
Yeah. Hey, I'm perfectly satisfied with pills too. And so what we can do though, Rick, is we can reverse engineer from our surveys and identify that you must be a Gen Xer or a boomer, because those consumers still prefer the pills, and it's the Gen Zs and Gen Alphas and even the millennials, I think, that are like, no, give me the gummies. So
Gummies they're the gateway sup. We said that before. It's like, and once you get past to like taking 3-4 things, you're not going to sit there chewing it all day. But that's my Gen X boomer rant for the day. That made of many days.
If you take enough supplements, then you can just stop food altogether, because you get not just the nutrients, but the caloric intake from the sugars.
Right.
So that's good. Well, I'm going to challenge you to on that being your only rant, Rick, because let's talk about CBD.
CB done.
So this is an ingredient. I think everyone's familiar. No, but what I want to say is an ingredient that I think we charted it at 100% growth 2 years in a row, like 2018 and 2019, something like that, or close to 100% growth, two or maybe even 3 years in a row. And then it's been negative growth ever since.
And you look at herbs and botanicals, which has been the fastest growing category for us forever, is now wilted back a lot. And some of that is the drag that CBD puts on that market. If you take CBD out, growth looks a lot better for herbs and botanicals. And it's always going to linger there. But I think it was the classic story of overhyped and underdelivered and under quality delivered and shot itself in the foot. I think I'm working on a story right now, and the headline as I see it is, can THC save CBD? You're starting to see THC is getting in really small amounts, and in state after state, why would you bother with CBD if you can go to the dispensary and get the real things? Why do you want cannabis with training wheels when you could ride the real bike? So I think it's going to take something to bring that back. And I don't think regulatory clarity is what's going to boost that market. It became a punchline really fast when that's, like I said, overhyped and underdelivered and a terrible quality was going on with so many players. It's going to take something like, real cannabis to boost interest in it. There's a THC CBD blend and getting that entourage effect across the whole hemp sort of supplied cannabinoid systems. That's what could bring it back. I don't think a CBD is going to do it on its own, but it's a drag on herbs and botanicals now, even though it was going to change everything a few years ago.
Yeah, because it's one of the top 3 ingredients in herbs and botanicals, and so it's negative growth. It's just bringing that whole ingredient category down. Speaking of ingredient categories, Erika, you showed us the big picture. Vitamins is first. I think specialty was second. Herbs and botanicals third. What about some specific ingredients? We just talked about CBD. What else is happening out there?
I think this is something that a lot of people are interested in, right? And it obviously varies per category, but I think one of the top ones that we're seeing. So it's interesting, right? Minerals was the smallest piece of that pie, right? But magnesium is really like having its moment right now, and for so many different conditions and so many different uses. And on social media, it's just gone viral, and sales are just going crazy. And so I think that's one ingredient that's doing really well within that category. And then also we're seeing a little bit of a bump back into the probiotic prebiotic space. I think also, with all of this, gut health is tricky, right? We're going through different phases of like, oh yeah, gut health, gut brain axis. I get it. I know I need it. And then it's like, whoa, probiotics, how many billion CFUs do I need? Like, what is it doing? What's a prebiotic? What's a symbiotic? So I think there's still a lot of confusion there, but I do think that there's still a lot of room for growth there. Consumers are starting to understand more and have that want for the interest, and not just like, it's too confusing, like I'm just going to stay away from it. So that's a category that's doing well. And then we're anticipating to grow more into the future. And then collagen also is doing really well. So probiotics and collagen, just for background info, are we consider to be within the specialty ingredient category. But yeah, collagen is just both with sports nutrition products and then just this revergence of beauty from within. And it's really, and even joint health, it's having its moment in all of those categories as well. And then within herbs and botanicals, ashwagandha is still doing pretty well, albeit a smaller market than CBD. And then mushrooms as well. It is smaller, but it's still performing pretty well in growth. And I think for the mushrooms category, again, it's tapping into so many different conditions and different use cases. So I think it's these ingredients where probiotics can be for, brain health, it can be for mood health, for women's health, vaginal health, and then collagen for sports, for joint health. So it's like these ingredients that can be used for many different benefits, many different conditions, I think is where we're starting to see a lot of the growth come into play.
Yeah, great. Well, that's a nice rundown. Let's 5 weeks from today, we'll all be in California at NBJ Summit. Let's talk a minute about that, and then let's wrap this session. Good conversation today. But NBJ Summit is the premier executive event for the nutrition industry. It's something I don't know how long we've been doing it. Rick, do you know how long Summit's been happening?
I thought it was 1996, but I could be wrong.
Over 25 years, I know that.
Yeah.
And it's really a fantastic event. And this year, we probably say this every year, but it's really, really excited about the content this year, and got some great stuff going on. But hold on, it's sold out, so don't get your hopes up too much. But virtual attendance is still open, so we'll drop a link in here, or you can just search NBJ Summit 2024 virtual, just virtual, and it'll take you to a link, and you can register for Summit. Erika, you'll be given, well, you and I together, I guess, will be giving a 45-minute version of what you gave us 4 minutes of today. Rick, what are you excited about with Summit?
Well, everybody's talking about the 40th and 30th anniversary of Deshay, and I'm doing an hour worth of programming on that, and really trying to not just like honor the past and the history and the sacred scroll of Deshay, but really talk about, did the industry live up to that promise, and is it fit the purpose now, and what happens if we just sort of hold on to it as it is without going in there and tinkering with it or changing or rethinking a lot of those pieces, and also how does it translate to a new generation of innovation that's coming up. Especially, we talked about CBD before, but all the cannabinoids, and then it's not a supplement really thing, but the psychedelic movement, what could they learn from what was learned 30 years ago? So I'm trying to approach this as, like I said, not the history of it, but the where does it fit now, and what does it teach us about the challenges of now?
Yeah, great. We got a couple hours of women's health stuff on the Thursday programming, really good stuff there. A couple great keynotes, Marcus Buckingham and Katie Goodman. So really, really great stuff. Check out the program. It's all online, and register for virtual. Well, what do you think? Anything either of you want to add about that or that? The report, the industry, the summit?
Well, there's a lot going on. I think that market parity is the biggest deal that we could be talking about right now. I think there's a lot of interesting things happening in weight management. I'm thinking in conditions, because I just got done writing the condition-specific report. But I think there's a lot going on, this Ozempic everywhere, that's going to have effects not just in weight management, but across our ingredient categories and the rest. I think prebiotics and fiber are having a moment. Who thought that was going to happen?
Yeah.
Because of weight loss.
Yeah. And I think I totally agree with all that as well. And a bigger theme that speaks to what we've been talking about today and ties into that piece of just, I think now more than ever, it's really important to be paying attention to what's going on in the market in terms of channels, conditions, and categories. Because like Rick said, it just keeps changing. 1 year, 2022, we see mass market being the same amount of growth as e-commerce. And now in 2023, we're seeing e-commerce go back up. And it's like, where does natural and specialty fit into all of this? And where is it going to take us in the future? And then with TikTok and social media, how important does that play with your brand? And how does that differ for ingredients and for product categories? Is it more important for herbs, like Rick was talking about, the TikTok platform for herbs? Is it more important if you're an herbal company to be on TikTok than Instagram? And so there's a lot to pay attention to, and it's important to buy a report like this where you can kind of get a breakdown of all of it and have all the pieces in front of you to have a good snapshot.
Great. Well, good stuff. Thank you, everyone, for if you're hearing these words, you stuck it out, you came back, you watched, you stuck it out with us. I hope we delivered. Rick, Erika, thank you so much for joining today. See you next time.
Thanks.
Thanks.